and welcome back to our Coaching Couch TV. Um, in our episode today, we're going to talk with Rola. You met her before, she's been our guest. Um, Welcome back, Rola.
Thank you so
Nice
much.
seeing you again. Thanks for agreeing. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm good. So we'll start quickly with reintroducing yourself, what you do, how you do it, and why you do it.
I'm an educational consultant. I always get asked, what does that really mean? Basically, it composes of three things: training people, guiding people, and basically coming up with content. So those three aspects are pretty much what I do on a daily basis.
Okay, so tell me more about educational consultancy. Who is it
So
for?
I would like to focus on families that are having difficulty with their children. Uh, I'm more geared towards the adolescents, as well as children in the primary schools. And what I do is I basically am called for whenever there's situations that are occurring with students. I help to liaise between the parents, teachers, administration, and the actual student. So I stand more as a student advocate,
Hmm.
reflecting their rights and their mental wellness.
Okay, and what are the typical situation that parents will involve you in?
9 times out of 10, it's academics. So they need the academic skill set in order to have them perform better in the educational setting. It could be, issues that are reoccurring behaviorally in the school setting and ways to modify their behavior. So that way there's more of like a self-awareness and more of, you know, necessary steps to take. And these are all like, skill building and, things that they would need to develop over time. So, for example, not too recently, there was issues with a student who could not speak in class, could not read, and could not write. So that's quite alarming in the sense that, school is a welcoming atmosphere most often, and there's social settings within the school that would help to exhibit these responses from a student. So basically, I sit down and I conference with the student to see what's going on, and I help to guide accordingly. Uh, Most often, you'd be surprised that it's not necessarily a learning issue, it's more of a emotionally based issue.
Hmm. Hmm. When you talk to kids, to teenagers,
Hmm.
uh, parents usually present there. They can learn something from it.
I usually like to conference with a student first because I don't want them feeling like they are being watched or being
Mhm.
judged by their families. And I want them to be able to have the freedom and the ability to speak freely. Um, and this usually takes a few consultations. It's not where they're readily able to trust onset. It takes a progression of time. And I like to be able to assist in their academics so that way they see me as a teacher
Mhm.
versus someone that is trying to probe them and see what's going on in their lives. So I'll, initiate with their studies, and then I'll sidebar and have like a little conversation to kind of gather more information about what's happening in their lives in its totality.
Mm-hmm. Any particular stories you can say? Success stories?
Success stories, yes. As I was speaking earlier, I had one little student in mind. Um, he was mute. He wouldn't speak in class. He wouldn't make eye contact. And like I was saying earlier, it turns out it's not a learning disadvantage, or, if he was a special needs student. Um, it was because he was scared. He was petrified.
Mm-hmm.
And I would ask him, just, you can make eye contact with me. I'm like, is something in my eye? Can you check? Like, what's wrong? Do I have anything in there? So I would, just as you laughed, he would laugh too. And he would kind of like do a little glance. And that there is progression for me. The thing is that most people don't understand is that these little signs are progression, and you just build on it. Um, these little small steps will make leaps and bounds once you get and you earn their trust. So basically, he was unable to speak, read, and write. By the sixth session, he was able to do exactly all of that. Plus, he had such a personality, no one would even think, because he was just quiet. But he has a lot to say, and he's very expressive. And each time, each session, you just discover more and more, and it's beautiful. It's just this is what I love. This is what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
I love to bring them out, and then unleash whatever it is that is inhibiting them in the school setting or at home.
Mm-hmm. Did you find out the cause of it, of this behavior?
Yeah, the issue was that, in some school settings, it's common practice for a teacher to be quite loud. And for for him in particular, he was taken aback and he was fearful. So oftentimes teachers don't realize their tone, and their tone and the way they deliver certain messages can offset children,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they're new in the learning setting. Um, so it was a matter of having them realize that the tone could come across as being loud and, fearful. However, I would ask him pointedly, has she ever hit you? No. Has
Mm-hmm.
she ever pulled you aside and was angry with you? No. I said, okay, so we need to be able to differentiate between tone and volume, and when someone is being aggressive or trying to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
So then it just opens up a whole new perspective for them to really understand. And I'm sure, he's probably tried to say these things to his family, um, but it takes an educational consultant to really understand what's happening, to really put yourself in place of their vision and how they
Mm-hmm.
view their daily lives. Because I come from over 20 years of being in an academic setting, being fully aware of the environment, and understanding the student perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. How different is to work with kids and teenagers?
Oh, two worlds apart, that's for sure. Um, Children are so eager to please. They are so loving and so pure and so innocent in just their outlook and how they want to be received. Adolescents have their they're trying to make their way in this world as independent operators. And if they don't think you understand them, they just shut you out and they
Mm.
literally say, they don't understand me. And whatever that person tries to deliver a message, that resonating thought continues. They don't understand me. They don't understand what I go through. And even, unfortunately, even when adolescents try to express their view or their understanding of a certain situation, they're usually combated or contradicted by the opposing view.
Mm-hmm.
And they're left thinking, they don't understand me. They don't get me. So, again, you have to place yourself in their shoes and you have to place empathy above everything else in all the situations that they come across. Of course, you would have operated differently. I would have operated differently. But in this change of times, we really have to just listen. Say, I
Mm-hmm.
understand what you're going through. How do you think you could have responded in a different way, let's say? Or do you feel like there could have been an alternative scenario? But you can't like approach them in that way. You can't use that kind of verbatim. I'm just saying, as you speak and as you talk to them, you're compassionate. And right from the start, you ask them, would you like my advice or do you want me to just listen?
Mm.
Sometimes, even as adults, we like to go ahead and express whatever it is that we're feeling. We really don't
Be,
want people to pass
be
judgment.
heard. Yes,
Be
just
heard.
just to be heard. Yeah.
And also to not have it referred later. Like oftentimes parents tend to say, oh, well, the last time this happened, and then they rehash a past situation. It's already occurred. For an adolescent, it's done and over.
Mm-hmm.
That's like almost a different lifetime. But for a parent, they tend to see a pattern and then they rehash the situation, further alienating them from being able to communicate with their child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're kind of losing the trust of the child, of bringing it back, and they have to re-experience it again. Yeah. When you
Yeah.
were talking, yeah, when you were talking about giving them a chance to talk about the emotions and all, what my theory is about dealing with adolescents and remembering myself as well. Um, the experience that they have at that moment when they're growing up, teenage years,
Mm,
for them, they have no reference from the previous experience. This is their first experience of adulthood.
mm,
And it's so big that sometimes they don't even have words to express. And all these emotions, they bottle them up. They don't know who to talk to, they don't know who they can trust. So, the important thing, as you were saying, Rola, just to give them chance to talk about it without any judgment, without teaching them life because we have more experience. You just need to do this or this. Just get their point of view. That's
right.
all they need. Someone just to be there to understand them. Yeah.
And, in an ever busy society, and,
Mm.
we are always preoccupied, even more so now with social media. um, you have to make a conscious effort to connect with your child. Their first and foremost option would always be to pick up a device, and likewise, you would feel the same, and you would do the same when you have downtime or when you need to catch up on something. But the thing is, we're always a mouse in an ever, in the racing wheel. We're not going to be able to come off that wheel unless we make that conscious effort to do so and to reconnect with those that we love. Yeah, their first and foremost option would be I'm watching a program, I'm fine, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but are they really? You don't know what their day was like. You don't know what they've experienced, but you need to you need to try to have that conversation. You need to make a conscious effort to bring the family together to talk about certain experiences, and it can start with yourself, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like they need to understand too that your day doesn't follow a certain pattern day after day. There are issues that occur, and they need to see that you are human too, that you experience issues and you have emotions that are intact with them, and how you resolve them. And if you have regret, because they can't always look at someone and see perfection. They'll strive for that perfection, but they won't be able to attain it. It's just not it's not, they're not capable of it just yet. And even as us as adults, you know, there's many times I reflect and I think, oh, you know, I messed up there. Well, okay. I mean, that's a learning process for me, but how often do you think adolescents sit down and actually reflect and, you know, decide on a new game plan the following time, or, you know, whatever circumstance comes up afterwards? It's not often. So you need to be able to express that too. Yeah, I really messed up today. I said this, and I feel really bad because I could see that the person was hurt. It wasn't my intention to hurt them, but, you know, I plan on making things right.
Mm-hmm.
And expressing that with your child, and even seeing what they have to say about it. It's a give and take. It's not all about, I'm a parent, you need to respect me, and you need to listen to what I say. It's no longer that mode of interaction.
Mm-hmm. Well, it still exists, unfortunately, but yes, we need to move into that more aware space about yourself and your children.
Right.
Would you give some advices? I know that you've given just now examples and all,
Mhm.
but if you, for example, have a teenager who is shut down, who doesn't really talk, what would be strategy for making them talk and express their feelings? Because sometimes it's really dangerous when you leave them alone in their world,
Yeah.
because again, everything seems over uh, over exaggerated, huge. They don't have the knowledge of how to deal with it, and sometimes they start blaming themselves. It's a whole different world when you experience new things.
There are definitely red flags. There are definitely red flags. I'm thinking of this one client. I feel like I wish I could do more, you know? Now, the problem is people need to actually make the initiative to schedule an appointment to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or get a referral from a general practitioner in order to see a specialist. And unfortunately, mental health is not covered with insurance.
Mhm.
So people are left to battle things on their own. And for one particular client that I'm thinking of at this time, I have the flexibility of being able to go into their home. I have the ability to speak to a family on site, which I feel is such an advantage. But there's a certain limitation to what I can do professionally. So I got an insight as to how the family thinks. I got an insight as to the family dynamics. And I was able to sit with the child who would not even open the curtain. This is a huge red flag. When I entered the room, the child was literally, and I don't want to say child, she's 17. She had the comforter over her head, Curtains were drawn. Um, it was pitch black, and literally, it was an ice box inside the room. I
Mm.
shivered because it must have been at least 15 degrees Celsius thing. Like, it's gotten to such a degree that every word could be a trigger, and you don't know how.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, from a professional perspective, I tried as best as I could, and I did make progress. I was able to have the adolescent come with me, have coffee, and develop future plans. However, the family set her back, and you'd be shocked. When I'd sit and I'd speak to her alongside her mom would say, "Oh, but if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to do that." But then I would say, "But she is feeling comfortable because she is doing it." So it's a strange dynamic that, as much progress as I was making with the actual adolescent, the family were inhibiting her progress.
Mhm.
From then, I said, you know what? Since I've made all that progress and then I saw the drastic, regression, I literally had to say, okay, your child, the family needs to seek professional help
Mhm. Mhm.
because I have worked as best as I could. I've reached a threshold that I couldn't cross, and it wasn't because of me. I feel like I should have done more, but at the same time, I don't think I would have been received well there afterwards. It's just a crazy dynamic, crazy. But unfortunately, progression has to be from all ends, from an
Mhm.
adolescent and their parents. They all have to be on board. There is just too much to work with at that point. It's
I,
unfortunate.
yeah, that's very unfortunate. Yes. I just start thinking about how many children or teenagers like that exist,
Yes.
and we don't know it, and no one will ask for help.
Of
Yeah.
course, I'm once someone is under my care, I'll always continually ask about them,
Mhm.
you know, because I feel it's an obligation. It, I never feel like they're, how should I say this? I always feel like people who come and cross paths with me, there's a reason behind it, and it's not always, um, clear and um, detectable at that time, but it's just, you never know what later on. And I still feel an obligation to because I care, honestly. I would have loved for her to have the same success story as my other client, and in some ways we did. And in all honesty, sometimes the mental health is not just the child; it's the family.
The surrounding, of course, of course. This is where they get all the cues of what is acceptable, what is not. And if they are enabling this kind of situation, I'm just trying to think what are the benefits for the family? Control? Okay.
Yet they had goals and objectives for this child. The goal was for this child to be able to drive. The goal for this child
Mhm.
was to be able to attend classes at the university level. I mean, I've exhausted all of the paths or obstructions that they saw
Mhm.
by doing the legwork myself. I hit up the admissions counselor. I would have sessions with the admissions counselor, we sat together, the adolescent and I, in a cafe, and I was like, this is groundbreaking because she wouldn't step out of her room. And then together we were filling out the application, and the excitement was there, and the course of study she had in mind. And
Mm-hmm.
that some people have uh, the understanding that they can problem solve and find solutions, and some people just have the understanding that with every problem solved, there's another excuse that can be formulated after that.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it wasn't from the adolescent, it was from the
Mm-hmm.
family, unfortunately.
To every solution, there is a problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just hope, and it's not that we are, how to say, judging the family. They might have their own reasons. They might have the experience. It's just trying to see from perspective of a consultant, of a coach, over the therapist, whoever is working with a teenager, because you still, whatever age you are, even if you're already as a legal adult and you're still living with the family, with your parents, you're still under the supervision, let's say, not even protection. It's just you are being surrounded by them. It's a totally different setting as if you were living by yourself or with a roommate
Hmm.
in a dorm somewhere. It's a different place. Well, we'll just hope that she gets to another place, maybe university, college, where she can live with teenagers as well and experience different life. Because yeah.
Ironically,
Hmm.
her siblings are socializing, her siblings are driving, her siblings aren't attending university. So, like I said, it's just such a strange dynamic.
Hmm.
There's more to it. There's more to it that meets the eye, honestly. Um,
Well, let's talk about helicopter parents, because I'm sure if we are not them, that we know someone. Because I've seen, like you and I, Rola, we are parents,
right,
and I'm sure every parent at some point of time felt so overwhelmed with the world outside, with
mm,
the horrible things that can happen in life, and we have that feeling, just put our kid in a bubble wrap and just keep them at home with us, so they
right,
will not see, they will not hear anything disturbing. They will be just as pure as we possibly can keep them. And we do realize it's not a reality, it's not
mm,
life. So we have to deal with our emotion and give a child experiences. Otherwise, what's the point of living?
true,
Do
very
you know
true.
pa- do you know parents like that?
In regionally, there are many.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I know someone who um, has a full-grown adult, um, who's married, has kids, but the mindset
Mm-hmm.
is that of a teenager. Meanwhile, they're
Mm-hmm.
approaching their 30s. And I actually have had the mother tell me, I really wished, going back in hindsight, I really wished I had not accepted my child to be at home, curled up,
Mm-hmm.
watching television. I really wished I pushed her to go beyond the comfort zone, because with experiences, you learn so much. And it's not just about that isolated experience, it branches into a maturity level that
Mhm.
acquires wisdom. So, in a social setting, her daughter would fall short on her input, her level of intelligence alongside other people. It's it's not, it's being naive and
Mhm.
not having the emotions tacked on to certain experiences, not having the intellectual ability to be able to restate the process, how
Mhm.
it happened from start to finish, and not have the ability to empathize, to say, oh, yeah, I understand what you mean because I also had a similar experience where I did this, and the other. So, with every experience, you're not just saying, oh, yeah, it's a check off my life list. It's more along the lines like you have a certain capacities on multi levels to be able to effectively meet certain criterias with other people.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I've actually had a mother tell me, I wish I never let her. I wish I
Mm.
let her go out and experience because I see how short she falls when she's around other people. It's unfortunate
Mhm.
for a mother to view that of her child too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's, let's say it's never too late.
Mm,
It's just you really need to want to
mm,
get some information, even if it's not firsthand experience, you can
mm,
always talk to people. You can always find a way to research things. And
mm,
but yeah, it's all depends on a person if they really want to, if they realize what is needs to be developed or needs to be um, just worked on.
mm,
I don't think it's really too late. Yes, I understand the regret of the mother,
mm,
but for her daughter, I think it's still there is a chance.
mm,
It's all it's all in good. uh, Just to find a good professional. Yes, there is also um, someone who will not take advantage of naivety. So when you're working with teenagers,
mm,
because you have an insight from that. I was always wondering. I was trying to remember myself when I was a teenager many years ago, many decades ago. Oh, uh, who do you think they're trying to be like? Like, who are they heroes? People that they want to be like, they want to do like. Because I remember before it was mostly our parents or people that we know.
mm.
What is it now?
They're friends.
Wow.
They're friends.
Okay.
Undoubtedly. They're always
Okay.
making the comparisons. They're always looking to their friends, and I think that's like as an adolescent, and as I experience the adolescents that I come across, I always see them referring to their friends, um, and how it's not, it is a competition,
Hmm.
but it's one of privilege. They get to do, I want to do.
Okay. Okay.
So, um, you're this way, their family isn't. Um,
Hmm.
why can't you be more like, because their family is like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always looking at the others and seeing their own deficiencies and criticizing and ridiculing. Yeah, mostly criticizing their their shortcomings from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have that insight into understanding that yes, they may be this way, but I don't think you would enjoy being that person living
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
certain circumstances. For example, um, my own daughter, my own daughter, she tells me, why don't you let me stay out until 12 a.m.?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, clearly I don't want to drive back home, at 12:30. I enjoy my own sleep. But from
Mm-hmm.
there, but from her perspective, it's her family is out or her friends are out, she should be out.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have the understanding that yes, it's safe in this country. However, it's not safe for you to be thinking it's normal and to normalize 12 a.m. being anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
um, until you're fully capable of taking on certain consequences that may be attached to it, or being able to problem solve if there were situations that arise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, what suits them, but you also have to look at your own child or other adolescents. Are they capable? Are they mature enough to handle certain circumstances? And I know for a fact my own daughter is unable to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because I'm a helicopter mom. It's literally history has shown, um, that there's a certain panic or
Mm-hmm.
that arises to certain situations, and she can't see past a certain point, and she'll literally call me up and say, mom, I need your help, like this that and the other is happening, and she's panic stricken. Well, imagine the situation being at 12 a.m. in a park.
Mm-hmm.
So I always take into perspective, or I always take into consideration the actual maturity of a person. And in my as a parent, and I'm sure all parents feel the same, is that yes, we would love for our children to explore and be exposed to so many things, but in due time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And eventually it will, but you don't want it to be damaging, and you don't want to have regret tacked on. Of course, there will be situations where there will be regret, but you want to course and you want to be able to have life's experiences with the least amount of mental damage, I should say.
Mm-hmm. While we really want that, it's not always possible.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and also as a parent, we will always think that our child is not ready,
Hmm.
whatever age it is,
Hmm.
and whatever experience, well, mostly negative experience, it shouldn't be even there. But from what I also remember, whatever happens, and if it's scary, we sometimes don't tell parents. When we are younger, we don't tell them because we fear repercussions.
Right.
When we are older, we don't tell them because we don't want to upset them.
And you don't want to
Because,
have a loss of privileges either.
yeah, yeah. So it's very difficult between, generations.
Mm,
It's something that you will probably share with your friend, but not your
mm,
parent.
sure. And it's really, really, really important for parents to know the friends, invite them
Mm-hmm.
over, have
Mm-hmm.
dinner with them. Yes, I know after a long day at work, the least thing you want to do is, have entertainment. Let's, entertain people in the house. But honestly, you need to know who your child is dealing with. You need to
Mm-hmm.
know, and you need to ask questions to see what the mindset of those friends are like and how they perceive certain situations, because you need to have an understanding of your child with them, um oftentimes, the whole coin phrase of guilty by association didn't just arise from nothing. It
Mm-hmm.
arises because you're in association with a group of people.
No, tell me who is your friend, and I will tell you who you are. Yes.
Yes, your future. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Exactly.
Rola, do you have advice for parents dealing with teenagers at the moment? How to deal it on a daily basis? How not to lose trust of a of your child? How to control your emotions as well, because they are adolescents. It's a pre-adult. It's
Yeah,
like they want to be adult, but with their knowledge, they still unable.
right.
So, and you feel like you're dealing with adult, or you want to, but then
Mhm.
again, yes, the emotional and intellectual part, it's still there. So, what would you advise to parents?
Really, honestly, if I can tell any parent, it's n- what would I say? Honestly, it's not one thing that I would say. It would be so many things. I would say hug them. I would say tell them you love them. Embrace them when you see them. Give them a kiss. Let them know how proud you are of them, because all of these things make such a difference. Really take on those adolescents as if they were friends. Of course, there's always going to be the distinction that you are the parent and they are the child, but how would you treat your friend? You would ask about them. You would love to share, you know, comical moments with them. You would
Hmm.
take them out. As adolescents, they don't want to go anywhere anymore, or they want to just be with their friends. But you would make a conscious effort to call up your friend and you would have a conversation with them. You do the same with your child. There's no distinction there. You would make arrangements. Okay, I would love to have lunch with you. What day or time works best for you? Let's set a time aside for just you and me. And you'd be surprised what comes out of these meetings. Don't I always, always, always like to tell a person or anyone that I'm dealing with, when you look back in life, what precious milestones will you remember? And
Hmm.
that's so important. I'm like, are you going to remember the highest score that you had on Subway Surfer? Are you going to remember, how a server crashed and you lost all your inventory? You might, but is that what you will remember and make you smile? So, together as a parent and an adolescent, create more memorable moments. Express how proud you are of them. have them share their achievements and you celebrate it
Hmm.
without judgment. Their progression, their view of progression, their view of achievement might be different from yours, but celebrate it. Um, and just look into their eyes and tell them how much you love them and how much you value them and how God has blessed you that you guys are together in this
Mm.
lifetime. Because I think that means so much to them. And I think that would surpass what anything or what any one of their friends would ever say to them.
Thank you. I'll just want to add small thing that I'm planning to do with my son as well.
Mm,
Uh, we will celebrate not only achievements, we'll celebrate failures too,
mm,
because it's something that if you fail, that it means you did something, you tried to
right.
do something. Yeah,
Absolutely.
learn what you've learned now during that fail, and try again. We don't want, as parents, we don't want our kids to go into adult life and then be afraid to even do something.
Mm,
So yeah, but thank you, Roland. Thank you. It's very deep, and I know that you're speaking from personal experience a lot, not only as a consultant,
yeah.
education consultant, but as a parent of a teenager as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, all the power to you, all the
You.
help that you need to you and the parents like that watching us now,
Yes.
because it's really hard.
Mm,
But this is a circle of life, what they say.
absolutely.
We've been teenagers, now we have teenagers.
Yeah.
Mm. Do you understand your parents more now that you have teenagers?
I do. And yeah, it goes back to I wish they understood.
Hmm.
I
True,
wish they understood.
true. Well, yeah, the generations before were a bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah, in some cases, you just look back and thinking, wow, my parents with their situation that time, with their knowledge, because it wasn't like now everything accessible, all the
Mm,
information, how to deal with kids, how to deal with adults, and how to deal with teenagers, yes. And then during that time, they still did. Look at you, Roland. They still did an amazing job raising you.
yeah, but it's also the need and see all the experiences that I've had has me or amplifies my need to help others, you know, to stand alongside a student, to stand alongside an adolescent, a child, and to express and effectively state what they feel because oftentimes what happens is they shoot high octaves
Hmm.
or the tone rises or
Hmm.
the disrespect comes out and then they lose their argument instantaneously and they lose their perspective and they lose their message. And that's what's unfortunate is that they're trying to deliver a message they don't know how.
Hmm.
So having someone delicately express this message or giving them ways in which they can, it makes them more effective in communication.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Rola, for being you with your experience and helping kids and adolescents in their journey to
Yeah.
adulthood.
Yes, hopefully.
It's
Hopefully,
it's it's
hopefully I
really
try to do my best, honestly. I do my best.
admirable job. It's very difficult. it's very difficult to work with adults
Yeah.
or some adults. So I just cannot imagine working with kids or teenagers. So whoever is watching us and you are same as Rola dealing with kids and teenagers, well, big admiration.
And
Anything else you would? Yeah, please.
the one last thing that I would love to say also is and I know people have heard it, and I know it's a common cliche. Um, there's no manual for children, they are their own manual.
Hmm.
So if you really, truly, truly want to know what's happening and really, truly want to know how to deal with your child and your adolescent, it's by listening, purely listening, and literally taking a bird's eye view and looking at the situation, and without the judgment, without the trigger words, without the critique, listen. And together come up with a solution. The one other thing I would like to say is that they you can give your advice, and I've always said this to my adolescents that I deal with in general. I've told them, listen, I can give you my perspective, I can give you my advice, but in the end, you're the one who's going to experience these situations, and it's up to you how you handle it there afterwards. I'll always be here to support you. I'll always be here to listen. So even if you need assistance along the way, after you've made a decision that may be different from mine, I'll still be here. I'll still try to work things out with you. Don't ever feel like because you've taken a decision and it's different from mine, that you can no longer approach me. No, you can always approach me. My door is always open, and we can always work together for whatever solution you have in mind. And that's another thing I wanted to say as well to people. Be here, be present, be mindful, and be aware. And those aspects will help any situation. Likewise, if you're at an emotional state where you feel very reactive, then you are not going to help in any
Mm.
scenario. You need to remove yourself, and you need to regain your normalcy to be able to think rationally. That's the other point I want to make too.
Mhm. Before approaching any situation with a teenager, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Clearly say, like you have to be very effective in how you deliver messages. They have to be short when you are not able to send a message through that doesn't elicit an argument. So you have to
Hmm.
say, listen, I would love to speak to you right now, but I need some time just to calm down. And that makes a world of a difference because we as adults do the same. We need time to really process things and then, go back to it
Hmm.
with a clearer mindset, better than to be
Hmm.
reactive. And then they too will model the same behavior and hopefully use the same wording as well.
Great message. Great message. Rola, thank you for finding time to talk to me and to our viewers. I hope this is not our last meeting online or in person.
Thank you, Daria. Thank you so much for all the viewers. And we're all in this together. So reach out to one another and seek comfort in those that will give you solid advice that will further help your scenario and your situation with those around you.
Thank you, Rola. Well, bye. I'll see you later.
Take care. Stay well, everyone.
And I just want to say thank you for watching us. We are very grateful for all your views and likes and following. But if you just stumble across this channel first time, check our videos and descriptions below. We're here every Thursday for live shows, some of them pre-recorded. Um, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you on Thursdays. Thank you very much, everyone.